Right, and welcome back after that break. I'm sure it was a good bit of networking that you did, and tummy's full, but I hope not so full that you are bored. And we move on now to our next, our second panel discussion, the topic of which is surviving and thriving through innovation, skilling, and teamwork. To participate in this panel discussion, I would like to welcome Dr. Dinesh Bhasin, industry veteran and VAP Hall of Fame member. Mr. Bhasin, a former Vice President Passenger Vehicles at Tata Motors Limited, has held a number of senior positions with companies like Maruti Suzuki, Bajaj Auto, Hyundai, and Toyota. An MBA in marketing from the Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. He has been awarded Fellowship of International Motor Institute, UK, and has been conferred a PhD for his work in customer retention and loyalty. A council member for consultancy companies, including a US based giant, he currently mentors two startups. Please also welcome Mr. Ramashankar Pandey, MD, Hella India Lighting. Among the youngest professional CEOs, Mr. Ramashankar Pandey has a global role at Hella, Germany for the Special OE division. Winner of the Asia Pacific Entrepreneurship Award for 2016, he is an alumnus of NIT Calicut, ICFI Hyderabad, and IIM Bangalore, as well as the University of California, Berkeley. He is a member of the Executive Committee for ACMA, Auto Component Manufacturer Association of India, and co-chairs for the Consumer Affairs Committee at ACMA. Mr. Pandey is also member of the working group of SAFE A Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers Initiative. Please also welcome Mr. Kalpit Shishodia, Director Customer Service, Volvo Cars, India. He is an after sales professional with 23 years plus of industry experience with Kirloskar Motors and Mahindra and Mahindra, and 16 years at Toyota and Lexus After Sales India. His contributions include various after sales functions, including strategy planning, field operations, Kaizen, service marketing, parts management, technical support, pan India. Our next panelist is Mr. Sanjeev Aggarwal, Head Business Excellence, Petromin Corporation. Mr. Aggarwal's motto is be passionate, drive the change, and believe in people power. He has 28 years of experience in the after sales domain, covering service operations, parts logistics, dealer network management, customer experience, business development in India, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East. He is a mechanical engineer from top 10 engineering college in India, followed by management degree in marketing specialization. I would also like to welcome Mr. Arindam Lahiri, a passionate professional with a career spanning 28 years in manufacturing across all domains of education and AMP training. Mr. Lahiri started his career with Maruti Udyog, received global exposure at Honeywell Inc. USA, and is co founder at Career Launcher India. His last assignment was with the education division of HT Media Limited. Mr. Lahiri is an alumnus of IIM Lucknow. Also welcome, please, Mr. Gaurav Mann, CEO, K2B Learning. Mr. Gaurav Mann is the founder of K2B Learning, a learning solutions provider that promises to transform businesses through its learning and development interventions. He has been associated with this industry for almost 2 decades now and believes that learning is important when times are good, but essential when times are tough. His philosophy at work: establish trust with your stakeholders. A satisfied customer is your best advertisement. If not this, he would be playing cricket in some part of the world. And tying all this together is Mr. Anuj Guglani, CEO, World Auto Forum. Over to you, Anuj.
A very special good afternoon to our very special panelist speakers for taking our time on a Saturday and coming for the sixth edition of the IVAS, which of course is virtual for obvious reasons. And as It's the second Saturday of December every year that we celebrate as the IVAS Day, or the National Vehicle After Sales Day, which now is international. So if you had joined us in the morning, you would have seen that we're getting people from all over the world. And even in this session, we have Sanjeev joining us from the Middle East. So once again, a big welcome to each one of you. So please allow me to share my screen so that I can just show everybody the points that we had discussed. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can see, Anuj.
Thank you so much, sir. So, friends, we are here for this session that is surviving and thriving through innovation, skilling, and teamwork. So, at VAF, we keep on doing a lot of research as well. We have this VAF think tank section, we have the VAF TV on our website. We keep on talking to a lot of people in the industry. So, whatever inputs we got, these three words, stand out as possibly the sweet spot which can offer a panacea, in these tough days of pandemic. So innovation, skilling, and teamwork. So quickly, these points, which we had shared with our honorable speakers as well. That is to say, we all know we are amidst the pandemic. We are seeing lockdowns, containment zones, demand busting resume cycles. We've just heard the IVAS panel one. If you heard earlier this morning, we've also heard a possible solution on how people had engaged in the lockdown, then the unlockdown, and then in the market expansion phase. So the entire world right now is struggling to survive. Economy is down, by multiple percentage in double figures. So innovation possibly is the only way to thrive. So how can we innovate to thrive? Then skilling is always the prime mover for efficiency and productivity. How can we harness it for higher profitability and customer retention, especially in the context of these challenging times? Because when things are hunky-dory, you can always talk about efficiency, productivity, SOP. But when things are not hunky-dory, they are challenging. How do these things come to our rescue? That's what we want to know. Then teams always matter, we know. But have they mattered even more during these challenging times? How the innovation, skilling, and teamwork is working together. So the secret sauce of these three parameters, how can we intertwine them, use them, apply them on a consistent basis? And if we have done that, if you can share some best practices, and at the end of the day, the rubber meets the road. How do all these nice and good to know and good to talk about things in programs, how do they actually transcend to the workshop level, to the bay level, the advisor, technician, picker, washing boy level? Because unless it's end to end, unless the benefits are disseminated to the ground level, it's just talk and no action. So with these some cues, I stop sharing my screen and would like to begin with Bhasin Saab, who's an industry veteran. Bhasin Saab, how does this pandemic situation and the after sales function look at from a distance? What are your observations? What are your immediate measures that we should be adopted?
Thank you, Anuj, and hi everybody, all panel members. It's really nice to be again here, Anuj, in your this program. I have been watching. I logged off only at 1:30, around 1:30 to. I mean, it was so interesting, but I had to log off for my lunch, and I'm again back with you. I saw your stalls also. Since it's my with you, it's a first experience for an virtual meeting. I mean, I wanted to watch everything in detail, and then kudos to you. I think 10 out of 10 marks for that. However, this makes little more challenging to participate in some areas, because it has been always a pleasure, watching your stalls and participating and then going through in detail. This is something which I'll be missing in person. Secondly, Anuj, for me, you mentioned about how does one or how did one survive and thrive in after sales service. Now, I probably would be the only one. I do not know much about others. Probably would be the only one who's not working anywhere. So I don't have a boss. So while on one hand it may be a good thing, while I'll say on the other hand, I mean, when there's nobody to whip you, there's nobody with the stick behind you, there also you are likely to lose a lot. You tend to getting up little later in the morning and all that. But then this I realized very soon in the first few weeks of the lockdown itself. So then I went back, gentlemen, and then of course, I was very active on the other areas in my other programs. I particularly concentrated on this innovation kind of things and reskilling. Of course, teamwork is something, honestly speaking, which does not matter to me. But on the other hand, this innovation thing and skilling. Now, I'm a consultant to a few companies. So, how, for example, I utilized my time was what I realized was, let me first just give a little my understanding of innovation. I thought innovation is, seeing what everybody has seen, but thinking what others have not thought. So I thought when the guys will come back to office, uh, whatever, whenever it will happen, of course, it has taken a little longer for that. But as long as they're operating from home, we do not know their efficiency. Who is sitting, who is not sitting, who is working for some kitchen work, as we have seen many jokes and other things. Uh, I worked upon with my one of the uh, companies for whom I'm a consultant, some asset tracking software. I mean, we have made a software, for example, who can track this small chip kind of thing. I mean, which one has to carry or you have to place it. Even at your laptop, you can place it. You can attach to it. So one would come to know how many hours somebody has spent. I mean, this can be attached to a car also. This can wherever the car will move in the workshop, it will give you all the movements, and thereafter you can track the efficiency. So this is how, for example, one thing which I got developed through one of the companies. Then there are many other examples, gentlemen, on innovation. We are all from workshops. We all get our software update done on our mobiles. So I thought we should also develop some software where, I mean, we all know that our cars, when they go to the workshop, their software has to be upgraded, but it gets upgraded only when it goes there. So why not to develop something, which you can provide a link to the customer, and then he, like, he updates his mobile, his iPhone or the Android based phones, he can update his car software also. Now this is something on which I'm working. I mean, this is at my level. As I said, as a consultant, we have been working on half of the work. One or two projects are over, other projects I'm still working on. But I will probably add to the subscription, which everybody else also probably has done, that without the innovation, this pandemic, I think it will be difficult for the company to survive. I heard few speakers in the morning, particularly this Hyundai program, which they did. And since I'm a Hyundai customer also, I remember I have seen they were in, I mean, I'm fond of Hyundai because, first of all, gentlemen, I am a free man. I can take any company's name. But this certainly not to promote anybody, but certainly wherever good things are there, definitely, it makes sense to talk about them. So they were in touch. They were in constant touch with me in the last 5 or 6 odd months. Not only that my service was due, but otherwise also. So this is, I think, one thing which I have utilized for introspection. Another thing. Few words about skilling, Anuj, from my side. I would say because I was very fond of my team. Uh, I always believe that it's your team which pushes you up. Of course, you have to provide the guidance to them, but it's normally your team, your people who push you up. So I would say skilling, maybe we have to, I want to add two more things: skilling, multi-skilling, and reskilling. So this was also discussed in the morning by one of the training companies. So I thought, and then I quote something which I learned from one of the companies, and I have tried to practice that. I have tried to, gentlemen, reboot, reinvent, and reignite. Reboot means go back to basics. I mean, you won't be, I mean, you will be surprised. I went back and even opened my books, mechanical, I mean, on automobiles and so many other things. I went through many basics. Reinvent means focus on innovation. I already gave some examples. And reignite because probably I need more of aggression as compared to others who are already in the job, because the consultants are, one set of people whom you will be in the last in the list, when you go and when the works, when the companies will open. So I need some more reignition in myself. Skilling, for example, like Pune also mentioned in the morning session, multi-skilling, for example, I'm a mechanical engineer. When I started my career with Maruti in 1980s, cars were all, I mean, you open the bonnet and you can see the engine gearbox. Now, when you open the bonnet now, if of a modern car, I wonder whether you can see anything. I mean, there's a black plate or there's some black plastic portion. You can't see. I mean, then they were all mechanical components. Now they were all connected cars, electronics, and so many other things. Does that mean that I have to do my engineering again? No. Over the last 30, 35 years, one has to keep on reskilling yourself. This is what I have also tried to do. So skilling, reskilling, and multi-skilling. Multi-skilling is also very important because as a manager, I mean, we are all managers. You have to, when you start your career, you have to be a strong engineer. You start learning the technical things. Then you manage. Then you become a leader. I mean, for example, including profit loss account and other things. Then you become a mentor and thereafter an innovator also. And then you also, gentlemen, have to manage your family, I would say. So these are all things I went through. I introspected in this pandemic on the innovation, on the skilling, and I find that these are very basic things. I mean, the topic which, for example, Anuj, you have taken, I would say it's a very basic topic. One can talk a lot on this. One probably doesn't need any preparation also, but yes, uh, without these basic things, it's very difficult for all of us to go further. Just to differentiate, I was reading somewhere between, I mean, when you opened this topic, I was trying to understand what is the difference between knowledge and skill. Knowledge, of course, we all have. This can be acquired. It's all theoretical. But skill, I think how to put that in practical, and that how is very important for me. I mean, how to put this that's the ability of applying the knowledge. One last thing from my thing before I hand it over. You also mentioned, I mean, in the note which we have circulated, which is somewhere in the point number 5 or so, skills to increase the efficiency and productivity. Yes, definitely. If we have improved our or introspected ourselves or have taken further steps to improve our skills and our innovations and teamwork also, definitely this would lead to a lot of new things with regard to the customer satisfaction as well as customer retention. Now, Anuj, customer retention, or I mean, my PhD is on customer retention and loyalty. So I'm very fond of talking on this. And I still believe if you can retain your customers,
Yes, sir.
that would be a great thing. All those
Sure.
companies like Hyundai I just spoke about, just an example, as I said, are the companies where the customer retention is very high because that leads to your high profitability. So, net, I would say overall, and then I also heard Pune Manam saying, uh, may not be the exact this thing, but he said the as compared to January, February, his something is up by 4%. Probably it was revenue, or probably it was inflow. I do not know. Probably it was one of these two things. Either revenue or inflow, both of them matter a lot. So that is something is called customer retention. There are very few companies, of course, in sales, they are all showing some numbers. But in the workshop, I do not know whether people have surpassed the last year volume. So this retention definitely and profitability is one of these, outcome of directly what topic you have asked us to discuss upon, knowledge, skill, and innovation. So if this is looked after, the profitability and retention definitely would go up. Some examples are e-commerce. We never knew. I never
Yes,
ordered.
sir. Sure. So let's also get the other
Yeah,
speakers in the
so
conversation.
that was the last point
Uh,
for my. Yeah.
yes, sir. No problem, sir. We can always come back. So first of all, Bhasin Saab, thank you very much for sharing these priceless jewels of learning and knowledge. Because I'm sure it takes an entire lifetime to get these learnings, which you have easily and easily shared with us, in the last few minutes. I think that's very special. So yes, retention, profitability are the outcome of skilling, innovation, and teamwork. So when it comes to safety, when it comes to duri hai zaruri, we have one gentleman here amongst us who is championing this cause of safety, and of course he's also leading several skilling initiatives. Whether it's FICCI, road safety, whether it's also being on the ASDC panel. So I'm talking about none other but Ramashankar Pandey ji, who is like the rock star, like Amitabh Bachchan of road safety in the country. So Pandey ji, three words that you can read as the theme of the discussion, which I'm sure are also very close to your heart: skilling, innovation, and teamwork. If you can share, since the lockdown, how your organization have applied, implemented through various spheres of the automotive industry and the aftermarket to manage the pandemic challenges?
Yeah, I think from my side, first of all, the after sales. So I'm an odd man out here, coming from the open, independent aftermarket. But at the same time, I have Arindam here, who is combining both SAM, ACMA, FAD all together in terms of skilling. So feeling overall after sales, the way it is seen today and the way the COVID, post-COVID era will be seen is very different. We clearly see that before COVID, after sales, whether you call it like aftermarket, sometimes the way you imagine aftermarket with those garages on roadside, sometimes you imagine aftermarket more in terms of 3S or 4S outlets. I think that's going to change. And even before that, I want to term a word called whole life of vehicle management. So the moment from a OEMs and within OEMs also, you have this two separate ecosystem. One, when you manufacture the vehicle. Yeah, I just wanted to share with you, since my laptop is on now, regarding the overall industry perspective. And I want to really coin this word called whole life of vehicle industry. And maybe going forward, if this becomes the right term on the after sales side or aftermarket side, it then gives a right perspective to the market, whether from the ACMA side, SIAM side. So once the vehicle is out, whether it has a genuine modification, accessorization, then onwards, a lot of services being added, including insurances, and of course, later now, the recycle of the whole vehicle. So this is where, if I look at, I think post-COVID, because all of this involved a lot of physical movement, of course, because aftermarket has been, talking in that sense, a very, touchy kind of, we go and you meet the mechanic. So the innovation post-COVID is going to be very different. At one point of time, we wanted to go closer to the, can you see the screen yet? Because I have some issues still.
Yes, we could see your screen.
Yeah. So, for example, here you see the picture of a mechanic. You want to go closer to the mechanic, but now post-COVID, we are challenged in that. And we are working now how we are able to have the same efficiency from the visits of our salespeople, how the retailers are working is completely on a touchless or contactless basis. And this is again, accelerating the overall digitization approach in the market. So when we go now with the catalog system, with the overall app system, how consumers are delivered at the garages, workshop, and I'm talking more from an open architecture, which is not from an OEM dealership level, but in an open architecture, you have a huge unorganized segment. And yes, now there is a accelerated business case of aggregators, just like you have any other e-commerce. So what we found also as a company, also as ACMA, there's a huge need of innovation overall in the ecosystem, completely digital. And this definitely needed a lot of innovation. This definitely needed reskilling. And if you look at our teams, because when you have tough time, you hold your hands together, That is what we started doing when we faced it. We had a lot of these Zoom sessions, a lot of these, so much so that I still remember those technician training sessions where people are in their lungis and in their garages, and slowly they also got used to. Slowly they all understood what the Zoom is. Slowly they all started. So today, if I take a capture on the whole time zone, yes, we have a very different mindset in the independent aftermarket also. I remember ASDC organized a digital master class and heavily subscribed. A lot of our people went for training, which I don't think before COVID it was possible. So the teams and skilling them towards the digital aftermarket, I always call it organize the aftermarket, standardize it and digitize it. I think we moved quite a lot of inches compared to last 8, 9, 10 years, what I see. So to summarize here, the cocktail of innovation, skilling and team coming together, what does it mean to companies like us and also at ACMA in aftermarket is actually I call aftermarket 2.0, where two major things are going to happen. One is digitization and standardization. But another thing is how do we collaborate with OEMs now? Because OEMs' responsibility for the brand to have a positive experience goes even beyond their dealership. And I have seen a lot of business model coming up now where OEMs are trusting some genuine aftermarket companies to come together to cater and service to those markets where they otherwise cannot. And that coming together, rather than having a competing situation, we have a very good collaboration situation. Around the world, we have seen, but in India also, the open architecture is coming. And I would like to have more discussion on that, that how our teams are prepared for that innovation, starting with within our own boundary innovation, but now going towards an innovation across the boundary, where the multi-brand and the multi-organization comes together to make sure that the after sales is having high efficiency and the consumer has a lot of informed choices. That's my submission, Anuj.
Sure, Pandeyji. We've always seen you. I've personally seen you for last so many years, so strongly advocating safety, strongly advocating standardization of aftermarket, and reduction or complete annihilation of spurious parts. So I think it's a very passionate and purposeful profit that you and your organization are pursuing, and it's for everyone's good. It's very inclusive. So, and it's very nice to hear that you have been actioning these points since the lockdown. So now switching gears and going global as we always do. So trying to get Mr. Sanjeev Aggarwal in the discussion. He is now the head of business excellence at Petromin, which is a really big group in the Middle East. So Sanjeev, from your experience of India, you've worked with Toyota, Nissan, you worked with Nissan Middle East. Now you are heading this very important function with Petromin. How have you managed the lockdown? How have you managed the teams, and with specific reference to innovation, skilling, and teamwork at vehicle after sales and workshops?
Yeah, so very good morning, Anuj, and thank you very much for inviting me back in this platform, because this platform allows me a chance to get reconnected with all my old colleagues, and always seeing Mr. Bhasin and his starting of the panel discussion. Always you get something new, and one of my very old colleague Kalpit also is part of this session. So thank you very much. I think this year was tough for everyone. And can you see me? Because I cannot see myself.
Yeah, we can see you. You're absolutely very well visible.
Okay,
Please
great.
carry on. Please carry on.
Yeah. So I think this year was very tough for each one of us, and this was a very critical, maybe very unique situation, because this pandemic affected not one country or one region, or like it was a global phenomena. So it affected everything. So, but the good part is, if you go back and look into the timeline of in April, there has been a good recovery compared to what we thought in that quarter. So there has been, even though problems still exist, but financial activities have started. Now, coming to my experience here, what I saw, especially if I talk about this Petromin group, and as you rightly mentioned, it's a very big group here in Middle East, and they specializes in oil, fuel, but we are talking about automotive. So we have a big chain of multi-brand workshops, which is called Petromin Express, and of course we are also selling Nissan cars and servicing them. So what I saw here as a strategy, unlike many of the organizations who got into panic button and who got into removing people, I think since the topic of our discussion is innovation, skilling, and teamwork, so this was a time for any organization to show teamwork in the true spirit, right? When everybody is in difficulty and we cannot leave people because of profitability in this difficult situation. And that is what exactly the organization did. In the most difficult times, the organization kept all its team. No position was made redundancy. And even as you can understand the situation here, This business is mostly managed by expats here. They come from all like India, Pakistan, Philippines, and other countries. Uh, so many people who went home in March just before pandemic started, they got stuck in their home countries. The company continues to pay their salaries during this period. So this kind of and even not only salary corrections, but uh, even the incentives which were held back in Q2 were paid back in Q3 to tell team that we are back. So I think this kind of a one family approach was very, very important, and this is one of the very, very important aspect for any management, which I feel. Of course, we talk about innovation, technology, skills, but this last 6 months was a time to for any management to tell its people, whatever they have been talking in the last few years about teamwork, whether they stand by their words or not. So I think this kind of a action has given a very big incentive back to the company where people felt part of as a family, and they went every weekend. Also, they are going promoting physically on the streets. They are promoting very, very basic activities because now there are many strains on cost in terms of marketing activities. So team itself went on the road and start promoting service business, and we very, very basic, which we used to do 20, 30 years ago. But like we recovered our business to almost like normal. And our business plan for next year is growth over 2019, not 2020, 2019. So 2019 is the base, and we grow from there. So I think teamwork, as Mr. Bhasin also mentioned, is the core. And during difficult times, this is a time when companies should be a little bit careful. Of course, cost management is very important, but cost reduction or cost optimization should come from areas which is not directly affecting the employee of the company, whether it is salary, whether it is incentive, whether it is job. And then you can see the real power of team. Now coming to skilling area and innovation area, uh, what I am finding it here is, there are so many opportunity exist in after sales in terms of innovation, and currently we are constrained by dealer management systems and mostly done by big, big companies. So it always seen as a big, bottleneck. So I think this is a time for startups and off-the-shelf solutions. So if in my comment, I have to take two keywords, and I think your conference is attended by a lot of startup companies. They join as an audience, if I'm right, Anuj. So my message is we have so much of talent back home in India. I think what is needed now, technology has to very fast solution which are off the shelf. So just to give you an example, like in terms of customer experience, now we have different technologies, like we have barcode to scan the parts, but it is mostly used for parts inventory management. Then we have fingerprinting, which is mostly used for attendance management. And I don't know whether we have some solution available for number plate reading. So can we combine the three together? Any startup of the self solution available, which we can take quickly and implement. So that means we enhance transparency that whatever part we buy, because that happens in grocery stores. They scan each part number, each item, and then bill to you. So same way, can we scan all the parts and whatever is going to your car specifically, fingerprint like the technician who is doing the job on your car, and number plate reading means from the number plate the data is coming on the repair order itself and history. So these three technologies, I think currently is separate. And if somebody can take lead and these three technologies combined together can offer a very good customer experience and fixing the transparency and also will have some upscaling things for the thing. So this is innovation. Coming to skilling, I think this whole way of doing business has completely changed. And the biggest change we need is skilling of people in their mindset, right? So things are not normal. And the way we interact with people, like even Mr. Pandey shared about social distancing and everything. So how we greet, how we interact with customers, how to show our happiness. So many things are changing. So a totally different type of a skill set and reskilling is required. I think that's all from my side. Anuj.
Sure. So these are very pertinent points that Sanjeev mentioned, and this he started with very basic thing that when we talk about teamwork, were you there for your team or not during the lockdown, during the time when the business was slow? Very basic, hard hitting, and an honest question. We can talk everything in the world, but were you there for them? Did you cut their salaries? Did you pay the bills on time? Your obligations on time? Did you retain the contractual staff? You let them go? Did you do something for their mental health? What were the innovations and the tech innovation that Sanjeev mentioned? Yes, I'm sure there are many companies which are doing a stellar job in technology. And at the end of the day, I remember my professor back in the college, he had asked us, what is innovation? We all gave very nice, very rosy definitions of innovation. He just said in one line, he said, innovation is creative idea which solves a genuine real problem. That's innovation. So what Sanjeev mentioned, those three things, if one thing if can be integrated and solved by one technology, so that actually can be the innovation, because you're solving a real world problem, a real pain point. So talking about skilling, it'll be completely incomplete if we do not get Mr. Arindam Lahiri in the conversation, who is the CEO of ASDC. And since he, took this responsibility, he has done some great work at ASDC, some great associations, some great digital dissemination, and various new programs of the government he has propagated, RPL, NAPS. So, Mr. Lahiri, it's always an honor to have ASDC as our partner. So, your thoughts on the innovation, skilling, and teamwork that you have seen during the pandemic.
Thank you, Anuj, for the kind words. But it's always a pleasure to be on a platform with you and such luminaries, Dr. Bhasin and Mr. Pandey, Gaurav, everyone. Yes, the pandemic has accelerated a lot of stuff that we always wanted to do, especially engaging with the digital mode. And one of the first things that we did immediately once the lockdown was announced was to quickly ensure that our e-learning portal kind of gets activated very quickly. And you'll be happy to know that during the first 6 months, that is April to September period, we were able to engage with more than 20,000 people who have accessed about 10 different skilling programs that we launched in our platform. In addition, of course, we looked at what are the various areas where people can be engaged with in terms of the digital media, because as you would know that all of us with all of our own levels of competency, we struggle with the technology itself. Every time a webinar comes, I'm always concerned, is my broadband working okay? If my camera and my mic and my speakers are working okay? And given this kind of so-called intellect that we all seem to have, we struggle on our own way. So ensuring that down the line, people actually are able to use it and use it efficiently, effectively, and impact the productivity. I think it's very, very important for them to, get used to the whole process. And I think when it comes to after-sales service, the digitalization that we are seeing today, and I think both the keynote speakers today, earlier in the day, spoke about how the various digital initiatives are giving us the benefits. giving them the benefits in terms of the service levels. Therefore, I think it's very important for us to ensure that the skilling programs around this focuses on the various digital skills. We've started with some amount of digital masterclass that Mr. Pandey has already talked about. We've just launched a very, very innovative program in partnership with Google called Grow with Google. And we've just started the sessions this week. You'll be happy to know more than 1,000 dealer principals across the country attended the program in one single session, and eventually over the next 12 months, we expect to touch about 100,000 people in terms of going through this particular program. With Google, there are a few other partnerships that we are trying to stitch through with some of the big techies and hope we'll be able to bring those value additions to our network of people. If you are talking about service network, I think we've seen how the transition of the whole, let's say I'll take an example of the food industry, for example, where having food outside or having outside food or was about going to a restaurant or a hotel, which was all physical places. And that has entirely moved to a concept of a cloud kitchen. So my personal view is that we'll soon be moving into a equivalent of that, probably on a cloud workshop model, where the work happens physically in a particular remote location, but the customer doesn't need to necessarily visit it, and it's all getting service, which is happening to a large extent because you have a pickup and drop from the service, etc. But it still, I think, has very limited penetration, and I think over a period of time we'll see that. And again, if you want different food from different restaurants and have it together, that you want to have a South Indian dish also and a Punjabi dish also, you can order it all together from a Swiggy. So if you have two vehicles at home of two different brands and you want to get them serviced together, you will probably look for a multi-brand service network that you will be doing it. And you might want a service technician who should be able to come down and do the basic servicing for both the vehicles. So the multi-skilling part that I think someone before me was already talking about is very important. Multi-skilling in terms of product, in terms of technology as well. So today's automotives are moving computers as I see them. And therefore, a lot of integration happens between mechanical parts, electronic parts, electrical parts, and the software. So an ability to integrate all of this is, again, very critical. And this is the perspective with which we have already, revised all our standards. You'll be happy to know that many of our new standards, the new versions, have already been approved in the National Qualification Registry now by the Government of India. So the newer trainings that we will be doing will be to the new standards, where all these new technologies, integrations will all be possible. And I hope that will create a much stronger service network. Finally, one piece that I want to say is that the Indian service technicians are in huge demand across the globe. We are already working on two specific assignments with Saudi Arabia and Germany, where they're looking for people, trained in service network, and we'll be happy, to know people who would want to progress on a career abroad as well on the service network. And we hope to expand on this as we go forward. Thank you.
Brilliant, Mr. Lahiri. This reminds me of my General Motors days. Back then we used to give them a training passport to all the technicians who would get trained. So, I would be surprised that, even if that passport would get delayed by a few days, our phones would start buzzing. They'll say, "Sir, mera wo passport nahi aaya, ye nahi aaya, wo nahi aaya." We say, "It'll come, it'll reach you eventually. Why do you get so bothered? It's just a few days only you did your training." Then, one of the technicians who became friendly, he said, "Sir, this is actually our passport. But because of the logos of General Motors, Chevrolet, you have certified us. We, have the opportunity of working anywhere in the world." And
Yeah, we are working on skill passport actually now. Yeah.
great. So so the skill passports actually turn out to be their passports. And also, Mr. Lahiri, the program that you are, running and planning on the roadside technicians skilling
Yeah.
and training.
Yeah.
That again, the RPL, that is a fantastic program. That's how
Yes,
you're
we've already touched, in fact, 35,000 candidates over the last 6 months before pandemic. We've just resumed the process of doing that, and we hope to carry on. And what we had discussed with Mr. Pandey was about touching at least 100,000. So we're definitely moving towards that.
I'm sure Pandeyji.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations. And I think Anuj, remember this was in this conference when we took that call, and ASDC came very, very favorably on this topic. And this is where, like what Arindam said, that we all are coming together, cooperating to make that skill ecosystem for technicians much more rewarding.
Absolutely. I totally remember, Pandeyji. It was 2018 IVAS where we had touched upon this topic in the skilling panel. The skilling panel, thankfully, was the last panel for that day because we had overshot the duration by not 5 minutes, 10 minutes, by more than an hour. In fact, I'll forward the link to you. And that led to the meeting at ASDC. And then this program got initiated. We are so happy. We just say more power to you. Why 100K? We say 1 million and counting. So talking about these new ideas and now getting Kalpit in the conversation. So Kalpit's heading vehicle after sales at Volvo Cars India, and he is a very experienced after sales professional, and he's been listening to us very patiently. So Kalpit, what are your thoughts on the way ahead, and how have you managed your teams with innovation and skilling? If you can please share.
Thanks, Anuj. I hope you are able to hear me, right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. So thank you so much, and it's really my pleasure to join this panel along with so many esteemed people. Bhasin Saab started by saying that he doesn't have any boss. I say that, sir, you are the boss. So you don't need any boss. You are the boss for the industry. So good to be part of the panel and see all other members also. Since I am now talking in this particular panel towards the later part of the panel, so many of the points have already been covered, what I wish to say. But still, I think let me just give you a kind of my perspective about the innovation and things like that. So I think first of all, most important thing is, I think today morning you said this point very clearly, that necessity is the mother of invention. Certainly, this pandemic has proved that necessity is certainly the mother of invention, and many things have got evolved during this pandemic time. We can see from our daily life itself. Like, for example, we could never imagine kids can study without going to school. It's almost 9 months now, and it will be close to a year by the time the session ends. And this online education has made it possible for them. We can talk about online education for skilled people, or maybe say professionals, but for students like class KG students up to class whatever colleges and all, everybody is doing online education, and this was possible because of the requirement of which has raised because of this pandemic situation. See the condition of telehealth. Doctors, like if we want to talk about doctors, like we were like very skeptical if some doctor is consulting over phone, but now people don't want to go unnecessarily to a doctor unless it's necessarily required. So telehealth has got its own space now, and many startups, many companies have grown in that particular area. If I talk about it, today morning you had an Australian gentleman in the panel. He talked about the match, cricket match. Now, cricket match. Can you imagine a cricket match without audience in the whole stadium, making a lot of loud noise, cheers, and everything, and we used to enjoy. But now all other things are there except people. But then even the people live streaming is there online. You can the players can watch spectators enjoying their matches and all. So many things have got evolved during this pandemic time, and certainly all these things, what proves is necessity is the mother of invention. A lot of new things have come up which were earlier not existing, but I am sure after this pandemic is over, many of the things are going to stay back with us. So one thing certainly this COVID thing has clearly come out with is, I think online has gained its own importance. Many things have gone online, and whatever examples that we have been hearing since morning is mainly about going online and going digital. So people have certainly culturally accepted it, they are embracing it, so that is certainly there. In terms of some of the key behavior that as a company that we have adopted out of this whole activities, we listed down various activities. See, as a company, not only like I think most of the Indian companies, everybody was working from home, and during especially the time when there was a lockdown and there was no business, kind of close to zero business happening at that time, how to keep your stakeholders engaged, that was a very critical time when some decisions have to be taken. And I think it was very clearly covered. People have done activities towards engaging the dealer partners, supporting them in terms of financially, and a lot of examples have already been quoted, so I'm not going to repeat all of these things. But certainly for the people, as a organization, we did a lot of activity. We did for a lot of online trainings have been done, and especially the online trainings were customized to suit the requirement. We did a lot of refreshers, not engaging more than 1 to 2 hours a day. That's all. If you stretch it beyond that, people don't find it very interesting. And then even in the training methods, the new methods have got evolved. How to continuously put Q&A there, quizzes there, how to keep people engaged, how to keep everybody means I would say alive or awake during the session, make them participate during the session. So a lot of invention, lot of innovations have gone into it in terms of operational things. So that's what has happened during the lockdown time. But I think after that also, now if we see in today's context, now we are very much out of that. Most of the companies, I speak to a lot of my friends in other companies and all. If I talk about new car business, we can see on a month-on-month basis, almost you can say new car and new vehicles has come kind of at par with the last year. So that is the situation. But if I talk from after sales point of view, many of the dealerships have more realized the importance of after sales business now, because the recovery of after sales business is much more faster as compared to the new car or the new vehicle business. And at the same time, this has given them some kind of stable business opportunity. So even in the minds of investor, the importance of after sales has certainly improved in this pandemic time. If we talk from innovation point of view, I would categorize that in time to come, there will be like basically two type of innovation. Certainly one which is linked with the technological advancement which will go into the vehicles. Today morning, I think my friend from Hero Honda, he was talking about before pandemic, they were in a different era. After pandemic, they came to BS6 era, and it was a whole different game for them. Similarly, for many other manufacturers, I think everybody is making a lot of investment related to, we call it emission related investment, or maybe electrification related. Lot of investment is going in. There are companies who have been putting a lot of focus towards connected cars. The features which are adding convenience and the comfort to the customers are increasing. So a lot of technological advancement are coming in the vehicle, and there will be some innovations that will be linked to suit this advancement of technology. So that is certainly that has to happen, and all the companies are working in that direction to suit their respective requirement. But from after sales point of view, I think the bigger thing that we all have to see is the innovation that are linked to the customer experience. Right now, the customer behavior after pandemic or after looking at all these experiences certainly has got evolved. Things with which we used to think that these things cannot happen, now those things are the customers cannot customer definitely feel that these things can certainly be done. Why can't you do something like this? So they will give examples like this. So for that, I think the digital is going to play a very major role in the future time. and we will have to see the solutions related to app-based solutions, QR code-based solutions. A lot of those kind of solutions have to be developed. Yes, proactively, many of the companies have already started working on it. And now the customers will see the experience from the related industry and will start demanding from us. So that is certainly one area where we have to focus. Another key point which I would say is there is a lot of data into our systems. Today morning, Punay Venam has shown some data and then some data analysis, and then he has shared companies taking certain initiative to use that data. I think more important now, the innovation area, which will be like how to use all this data, how to use it effectively and constructively use for the benefit of the organization. So innovation that will add value to the end customer will create more trust, transparency, or maybe cost-effective innovation. So that will certainly find place in times to come. And the people are going to be the one who are going to deliver it this. So all these innovations, all these things, they will have to be skilled up in order to deliver all those experience. So that's my quick comment on that. I don't know whether I'm exceeding the time or not.
Well, we
But,
have Gaurav also who has to add value to our topic.
Right.
But Kalpit, I totally agree with you. In fact, yes, necessity is the mother of invention. And I think what you're saying is resonating with what Mr. Lahiri had mentioned, that we have to learn from other sectors also. Our learnings, our innovations have to be sector agnostic, the way he had mentioned about Swiggy, Zomato, technicians coming highly rated. I think you are surely resonating those thoughts of innovation from other sectors. So Gaurav, friends, Mr. Gaurav Mann is the CEO of K2B Learning. So Gaurav, I think the theme of innovation, skilling, and teamwork seems straight from one of your training modules, right? So,
absolutely. Yeah.
so what are your thoughts on this, and where do you think we are going in this pandemic? In this journey of last 8 months, how have you empowered companies and your clients on innovation, teamwork, and skilling? If you can throw some light on that.
Yeah, so I will take you from Kalpit. The last moment he said just before that. The mother is the innovation is the mother of the requirement. However, what I would say over here that I think in our automotive and manufacturing industry per se, I've worked very closely, in last 7-8 odd years. Now the adaptability towards digitization, the COVID has actually helped us. So we have actually gone ahead 5 years ahead. And be it on the all parts or the sections of it, whether you look at the dealers network, whether you look at within the organization, digitization, a lot of processes being in the HR or in the manufacturing, a lot of automation has come into it. And so as, the skilling where we talk about has brought the digitization part onto it. When I look at skilling as, look at from the three aspects of it: to engage, interact, and reward the your all employees within the organization. That's how you work with. Anuj mentioned that while people were coming in GM Motors for doing the training, and they were sending these certificates, kind of a passport type. So people felt quite rewarded that, okay, I'm getting a certificate from General Motors, doing any sort of what do you call it? The learning perspective over here. What has happened? I would also say that skilling is very much required. I don't know if you read, rather it's a reskilling. A lot of pilots, they haven't been able to take the flights in last 6-7 odd months. So the recent accidents, that is what has happened, that people were trying to land the flight on the runway, and the skids that has happened in India and abroad. They realize people need to reskill themselves, and as that what Dinesh sir had said also, that people need to do the reskilling part of it. And since we are sitting into an arena of the COVID times where we have to do multiple things, and since working from home, so that's where it also requires us to do multi-skilling, because merely only managing people, being as manager would not help us maybe. And it also requires us to upgrade to the new skills, because if you look at, I'm again taking a cue from the IT industry. If you look at, a lot of people have been asked to leave their jobs, those who are actually sitting almost on the middle management of the career. because they did not upgrade themselves into the new technologies which are coming. So I think a lot that need to be done in terms of, again, Arindam sir has been, leading the skilling part, in the country. And I always keep on looking at him that, all the kind of tie-ups that ASTC has been doing on the various, digital learning perspective. While we are talking about learning from the other industry also, I was reading an article of CIPLA, and they said in last 6 months, the mere number of employees are 12,000. And every month, I'm just quoting it, every month, the people are doing 3,000 L&D courses are being taken every month in last 6 months. So look at the number of things. So maybe, digitization actually is helping us a lot in terms of, skilling ourselves, reskilling, or in multi-skilling at the same point of time, because while we are bringing new technology tools, we need to learn them also. We have recently been working with a lot of our clients who've been coming to us. Gaurav, we have actually got this for our channel partner, this for our sales team. Why don't you help us not only to use them, but also tell them why and what part of it, so that, they actually come forward and say, okay, I have to learn this tool because it's making my life easier. So you have to put a lot of things into it.
That's fantastic.
No, I will just submit it over here because Anuj, we do not have much of the time. So,
yeah. So we have to take one question. So we have our dear friend, Mr. Amit Asija, who has been regular to IVAS for a while now. So what I'll do, I'll just, share my screen so that it is easier for everyone to read his questions. Questions a little long. So I'll just share my screen to show the question, right? Okay, so the question is right here. Can you see my screen, please? Can everybody please see my screen?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, we can.
So the question is, it starts with asking Pandey ji, and then it's to everyone as well. So Mr. Asija says that the safety on the passenger cars whose windshields are replaced, whether it's the OEM dealers or open market. So it is said that 3.5 lakh windshields are replaced every month, mind you, not every year, every month. So if that is a high number, then the windshield adhesives, which are used to, put the windshield intact, there is no possible standards or testing or homologation, because possibly unless the adhesives are strong or effective, no matter how strong or effective the windshield might be, if the windshield pops out because of a weak adhesive, then it's no good. So some thoughts on this, please. We can start with Pandey ji and open up with the other speakers too.
I guess this very good question, but this is not only towards the windscreen, but it is overall. If you look at the way aftermarket operates today, it's highly unorganized. And if you see that number of deaths on our road, which Anuj, you also pointed out, that so many people are dying on road. And one of the reason is also about these spurious counterfeits, but a major part is now non-standard. So the non-standard parts and non-standard workmanship, both are the cause of roughly 20% cause of deaths, road deaths, are spurious, or you can say non-standard parts, but then caused by these consumables, as well as how do you fit it. Now, the vehicle can only be guaranteed on a right safety standard where everything is taken care. So I agree with him that today India does not have an aftermarket standard. Neither we have a classification of garage or workshop. We have either genuine and non-genuine. So we have the OEM's brand, which is we call genuine, and then we have all non-genuine. But we cannot close our eyes that still 50-60% of those non-genuine are existing in our country. So how do we solve this problem? One major way is first the regulation, and the mandatory regulation has to come from north, which is today a good news that the new safety bill has already mandated all safety critical parts under that. So now the rules will come, but then how do we execute it? The biggest thing is again coming back to training. So if every technician knows that this is the standard, then only you can execute it. Enforcement will be a bigger issue. Even when the regulation will come, how do we enforce it? That is where I need this open architecture, which is ASDC, for example. And I think you'll be really surprised that many of these initiatives of ASDC, which is bringing both multi-brand and single brand together. This is a good start, and I think I will say, Mr. Asija, that it will take some time now. We are on that path. The standard is coming, the rules will come, and then the standardization of garages. At ACMA also, we are working with garages, roadside garages and the organized garages to rate them slowly. And I think all of this will come together, but I agree with him. Today, it's a pity we are losing a lot of people because there is nothing existing.
Great. So I think this comes very close to the example of the generic drugs, if I'm not wrong. Just the way you have generic drugs, which might be 1/10 or 1/5 the price of the drugs by major pharma companies, but they are the same salt. It's the same salt. It's the same R&D, but at fraction of a price. So similarly, if there can be some innovators who can make components on open designs, which are open, which are matter of safety and in public interest, then I think something can surely be worked out. And with people like Pandey spearheading this important objective of aftermarket and road safety, I think that day is not far when we can have, just the way we have generic drugs, we can have generic spares.
Yeah, but you have to mind it. The drugs also needs a good nursing staff and a good hospital. That is why the OEM's role is very critical. If OEMs are not training, many of them, a good drugs, it is not like a food packet you'll just eat. You need it to install it. That's why e-commerce cannot be as pervasive as in the aftermarket. And that is where we need something like an Android system. You remember 2016 or 17, I was talking about this, that we need an Android kind of system where OEMs actually kind of certify what should go into their cars. And one is their own closed system, but another is the open system. If you have Android by Google, where so many apps are being made, aftermarket can flourish.
Sure. Bhasin sir, you want to say something?
Just one thing, Anuj and all my dear friends, that nowadays the cars are so designed from safety perspective that very little is left for the workshops to finger it. I mean, of course, windshield, the application of the adhesive is one thing, but for example, the doors, the floor, and other thing, the technology which the authorized workshops have been provided with, this leaves very little to somebody cannot touch that. But of course, as it's being said, the real worry is that more than 50% of the cars are being repaired outside. So there somebody will have to do something. But the vehicles are more safer today from design perspective.
Absolutely. And I'm taking this last question by Rao Saab, where he wants to ask that when you introduce reskilling or an innovative product program process in automotive after sales, then how do you ensure that the dealer staff and the team's buy-in has been created? And it has to create that, to accept this innovation and reskilling as a benefit for their personal and professional growth. Basically, in a way, trying to say that how can we be sure that if we are trying to implement something for their personal and professional growth, they have a buy-in on that, or how can we assume that this is good for them? That's a very good question. Anyone would like to take it, please? Please feel free.
Anuj, can I try this?
Sure, Kalpit.
Thanks, Mr. Pratap. I think this is a very important question because as a company, we take a lot of initiative and we feel that these things will be good. But ultimately, if it is implemented at the ground, that is something which is very critical. And I think the most important thing is rather than enforcing those kind of things on some of the people, ideally, like if we can do some kind of pilots, if we can have some kind of involvement of the people while designing the process itself, or maybe whatever innovation that we are talking about, if we have a good buy-in for all the stakeholders, go in a gradual and phase by phase manner, and we should be ready to basically I would say customize that to suit the actual requirement, and then ready to modify the proposals that we are talking to for the respective dealership locations. I think that's a better way. First, involve people in step by step implement, and then be ready to customize to suit the requirement and measure the overall results. That's the formula that I would say we should try. I'm sure like the senior members here will have some more input to that.
Surely.
Thank you.
Yes, Bhasin sir, you want to say something?
Anuj, I'm not sure. Nowadays, there are a lot of incentive programs which are being run by the companies, which are based not only on sales numbers, but some parameters on service also. For sales, for service, the training is one parameter. At least this my previous company, they used to run this program. but they only used to see the number of or the percentage of trainees or percentage of the people trained. That's it. But that is just one or rather half answer, to say that yes, some buying in has taken place. But there's a lot which OEMs can also do. You can't force the training on them, but this is just one thing which many companies are doing. So you get some marks on sales, on stocking, on service parameters, on percentage of people trained also. So they add up to 100 and then you get those incentives. But the only problem is people forcibly send the people.
Mr. Lahiri, please feel free.
Yeah, no, so I think what Vasinta was saying is that, a mix of enforcing it and incentivizing it. And we've seen that working pretty well during the lockdown phase. A lot of our dealer fraternity who used the e-learning modules when we send them the promotional material, that they kind of forced, in the sense that they asked a lot of people, a lot of their team members to kind of go through this program. And they said that certification will be useful because then we will probably make your full payment for the month right away, kind of a thing. So it's a kind of a carrot and a stick policy, and in a way. So probably that's the only way buy-ins are probably more effective.
Yes, and the other aspect is just like a child is not always clear what is good for him or her. At times they need the parenting and the mentoring. So at times even the teams might not know what is really good for them. Like what Steve Jobs has said, the customer doesn't know what he or she really wants.
Yeah.
So that can be the alternate aspect. So I think we are totally out of time now, and it's time for felicitation of our August panelists. So thanks a ton, fellow speakers, senior people of the industry. So now I will hand it over to Anita ma'am to take it forward, please.
Thank you, Anuj. And to felicitate our esteemed panelists on this very interesting discussion, I would like to invite Mr. Daryl de Salis, VP BD Amplus Solar, Mr. M. Dhananjayan, MD Focus Group, India and Dubai, and Mr. Keval Mehta, VP Sales, Gallops Motors. So we would like you to felicitate Dr. Dinesh Bhasin. Mr. Ramashankar Pandey. Mr. Kalpit Shishodia. Mr. Sanjeev Aggarwal. Mr. Arindam Lahiri. Mr. Gaurav Mann. Our sincere thanks to you too.
Thanks a ton. And of course, it's me.
Yes. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks
a ton. Thanks a ton, gentlemen. Thanks a ton for powering this very important session, this important topic. And I'm 100% sure that the people who are watching would surely go back and action these points, which of course is in line with VAP's philosophy, dialogue to action. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a great day. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.